Anthony. First of all, welcome to the podcast. I can't tell you how much I admire and respect and adore what you and Morgan have come together and what you're creating here.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for the kind words. I'm happy to be here.
Definitely. So let's start at the beginning. Tell me about yourself. How did you become this awesome person that I talked to last night?
Well, once again, thanks for the kind words. I started out in the military. I got hurt in the military, and I got out. I received a medical retirement, and then I went to school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just kind of started a few different companies. Just had a couple different irons in the fire, so to speak. First company was a security company. I saw a need for it in Panama City Beach. We had spring break, and it was still kind of off the chain, and there was just a lot of opportunity. Security companies in my town paying people $8 to $10 an hour to deal with hundreds and thousands of kids. And I was like, man,
wow.
And I'm talking, drunk kids. So I was like, we could probably do a little bit better. So I recruited a bunch of military vets from around the area and professionals in the security industry. Yeah. And so I told them, hey guys, if you come on, I'll pay you right. I'll pay you $20 to $25 an hour where I can. And on the smaller contracts, I'll pay you the $15 to $18 that I can, just depending on the contract. But I'll make sure to give you those big contracts, especially during spring break, that you deserve for being out in the heat and having to deal with drunk people all day and night. And it just kind of blew up. I started with 2 condos, and then I started with 2 other contracts. One was with the Passion Group, and we provided executive protection to all the promo girls for Trojan, for Rockstar, and other promo gigs like that. So it ended up becoming highly lucrative for us.
Okay, so from there, that's pretty awesome. So from there, where did you go?
Well, I found an in the condos, too. So meeting with a bunch of property managers and other things, I kept hearing a common complaint. And I had no clue what I was getting myself into at the time, but one of them was condo cleaning. They couldn't keep cleaners. They couldn't get condos turned in time. So I said, well, hey, it can't be that hard, right? We were running 98 employees under our security company at that time. So I said, well, hey, we're doing this. Well, I have a little extra time. Let me try. And so I picked up 2 full condos that, I'm talking a lot of units. You're talking maybe 10 units per floor, 23 floors. So, it was a lot. And I blindly took that on, and it wasn't the smartest decision, and I didn't do it more than one season because I learned very quickly it was very, very hard to find those cleaners, and it was very, very hard to get those units turned in time. So I understood why they had a problem. So learned my lesson there, did not want to do that. We did make good money, and so did our cleaners, but it was just not something I wanted to continue. And from there, I founded a nonprofit organization. It was called Set for Success. And that was a really cool concept that we came up with. So basically what we were doing is when veterans were coming out of the military, we helped them transition back into civilian life. We set them up with mentors. We provided them interviews with jobs. We taught them interviewing skills. And we also hooked them up. We had partnerships with Dillard's and JCPenney to kind of help us get the vets in there and to actually get them fitted for a suit. And they actually donated that suit. And it was cool, so they actually had a tailored suit to them, and they felt confident going into interviews. And we did really help a lot of people with jobs, and we also did a lot of other cool things. We did retreats and stuff like that. And, that one was really cool, and that one lasted probably about 4 years until we actually had one of our vets commit suicide. And that really was crushing for me.
Yeah.
So I dissolved the nonprofit. All the money that was left, we gave to charity.
Oh, that was a nonprofit. Okay.
That was a nonprofit. We donated the rest of those funds to charity. And one of the cool things about that nonprofit is no one on my staff took a paycheck.
Yeah, wow.
All of our time was volunteered. It was all volunteered. The money we raised all went to the vets, and it all went to providing different types of experiences for them, whether it was getting out on the water, whether it was camping trips, whether it was marriage retreats, just some really cool things. But that really did kind of crush our soul in a sense. From there, I kind of just went back to what I knew, and I tried to jump back in the security game, and that was a farce. I should have stayed out of that because the market was so cutthroat after the spring break laws changed that, where you were once getting $40 to $50 an hour per person, and you were able to pay them $20, $25 an hour and still make all your taxes and your insurance. I mean, you had them cutthroat to where you were lucky to get $20 a person and be able to pay them 10.
Wow.
So, yeah, from there, I sold off all the rest of the contracts I had. I still had some of my original contracts that I had reacquired, and I sold those off as well. One of the things that I saw in your blog post last night And it sounds impressive when you say, I sold a company for $1 million, but at the end of the day, it's really not. And that's something I definitely want to explain to people because, if you have lines of credit, you have credit card debt, and you don't know what you're going to do next, you pay off that debt, you pay off your car, and then if you have a mortgage, you pay your mortgage off. And after you pay tax on the sale, you might be left sitting with $20,000.
Right.
So it's not like you're coming out saying, yeah, you made a good sale, you paid off all your debt, and you came out clean. So, you still made good money in the years that you had it, and you were running great. Yeah, it was great at those times where we were able to say that we were bringing in $500,000 a year net profit when we were grossing, a couple million. So, that was really cool to say, and it was nice to say that we had that large evaluation. But after the spring break laws did change, it wasn't a lot of money at the end of the day when you sold it just to break even and not have to worry about bills for a few months until you can figure out what you want to do next.
Right. Well, I really respect your transparency on that, and that completely makes sense. I've definitely heard that before, that very successful people be like, people always say, oh, what they want is to make $1 million, and like they have no idea what else goes into that. Like, it's not like it's just like $1 million and you get to keep all of it. It's like $1 million and like $800,000 in expenses. So
exactly. You have to buy equipment, you have to buy uniforms, you have to buy computers, you have to buy vehicles. There's a lot of different things that goes into it, and it's a lot of revolving credit that a lot of people don't see. So when they might sit there and see, oh, these guys have a lot of money because they're driving a new car, well, guess what? That new car in the company's name is a lease. Now, I might have bought a new car for my wife or my family, but the one for the company that's wrapped and has all the logos, that's a lease. People don't realize that, and that's something about business that I think a lot of people are kind of short-sighted on, and they think, oh, man, they have all this money. At the end of the day, they have a lot of bills. The more money you have, the more bills you have. So, because your lifestyle does change. We had our oldest child. We were pregnant with our second, and it's one of the mistakes I made because I was young and I was dumb and I wanted a big house on the water, and I went out and bought $400,000 house on the water.
Whoa, where?
Yeah, in Panama City Beach. It was in Bay Point. It was great.
Beautiful, though.
We had a dock we could walk out on. We had blue crab traps out there. It was beautiful.
Oh my God.
But you're talking about 28, a little under 3,000 square foot, 2 adults, 1 child. That was way too much house for us. But that was one of the things that I learned very quickly in business was that just because you have money doesn't mean that you should spend it. You don't have to be flashy. It's better to be humble and save your money and invest it properly. And that's definitely something I didn't do in my first business that was very successful that I wish in retrospect that I would have.
So I have got to tell you, exactly what you just said has always been a missing piece for me in strategic stripping. When I first started this channel, first of all, I thought I had no desire to start. It was like the universe or God or whatever that would not leave me alone about it. So I took this information from my head and I was like, okay, I'm going to put it on the internet and I'm going to walk away and I'm going to forget the channel exists. Like, I didn't even want to have anything to do with it. I felt bad that I knew all this stuff and I wasn't sharing it with people. So I had to get it out. Well, after doing it for a little while, I was like, oh my God, I really love the feedback. And I love how I'm actually able to help these random girls that find me online, which is so enlightening. And one of the pieces that I really realized really quickly that I really wanted to implement was, how can I teach them how to take the massive amounts of money that they're making? Because compared to the rest of the United States and probably the rest of the world, they're making like really good money, like really good money, and they blow it. They blow it, like all of it, because they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to invest it. So that was always something that I thought that is a massive key. I mean, it's really, I feel like it's the only reason even to start dancing, unless you're trying to get out of something really quickly. Besides that, if you're just going to waste your money on stupid stuff, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I love the freedom. It's something that rich people call new money syndrome, okay? And I heard that a lot when I was coming up. I didn't understand. Keep new money syndrome for like a decade or more. I've always liked hanging out with older people because there's always a little bit of knowledge that they throw your way, even nonchalantly. And I always enjoyed that, People would tell me like, hey, you should be putting money in an IRA. You should be investing your money. You should be looking at stocks and bonds. And I'm like, oh, man, my money's not going anywhere. I'm good. Why would I put it in there? From there, really, I went back to security, but I did it in a different way. I started a company called Tier 1 Consulting. And what we started doing was more DoD contracting.
So we took our military experience and we started working as a contracting and consulting firm overseas. And we also helped a lot of people here in the continental U.S. We went to Minnesota and we worked with a nonprofit, and we helped them because they were actually having someone within their nonprofit that was siphoning money out. And it was, they didn't know where the money was going, but it was actually the person that they had in charge. It was the director of that nonprofit that was siphoning the money out. And it was kind of crazy because I'm not going to say the organization's name because I don't want to, I had to sign a, disclosure with them. But what they were doing was they were working for economic prosperity in the African American community in Minneapolis. And what they were doing was combating loan sharking, payday loans. And so they had this really cool program where they gave people low interest rate loans, not quite micro loans. They're a little bit larger, but I mean, you could go in there and get $2,000 to help get caught up on your bills. And, you could pay minuscule amounts to repayment without, having to accrue so much interest. And I really thought it was a cool program. But once again, it did end up that the director at that time was actually intentionally bankrupting the organization and putting the money in her and her boyfriend's pockets.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
Yeah, and that's one that I still own. We still do consulting work. We don't do it full time anymore. Most of us are more or less retired. We have kids.
When you say we, so it is you and your wife.
No, actually, that was me and two of my other military buddies that started that. My wife did give us a lot of support in that fact. She helped us find contracts. She helped us write out the contracts, which to procure a government contract, I mean, you need a technical writer. There was a lot to that. And doing it full-time was cool, but I had a family, and I didn't want to have to be overseas. I didn't want to have to be away from my family. Right. And I didn't want to send guys that had just gotten out of the military back overseas, away from their families. Yes, we made great money, but at the same time, it really wasn't worth it. My oldest son, I think I missed most of the first 5 years of his life chasing business after business, And so from there, I kind of decided to table it. I set everybody down and I said, look, guys, if we want to keep doing this, let's do it. But we've all made enough money. We all have made about 6 figures at that point. And so I said, look, let's stay home for a year. If you guys want to get a house, do whatever. But let's spend some time with our families and really decide if we want to continue this. And we can just do consulting if we want to where we're not having to be overseas. I was like, you could also invest in other business ventures, but try to own something. Try to have a little financial freedom, a little financial independence without having to keep going overseas. And so that's what we all kind of did. And from there, I took about 6 months off, and I got back in touch with my family and enjoyed my kids. We got to enjoy, my second son Brody's birth and spend time with them.
They change so fast.
They do. They really do.
It's crazy.
My oldest son is autistic, and for the first 5 years of his life, he didn't really speak a whole lot. But after that, he just shot up like a weed, and he started talking. He had this really cool personality, and it was just great to have that time to kind of reconnect.
I've got to say, just because we talked about this last night, and I'm such an advocate for this, but you mentioned that CBD was one of the things that really helped him to get better, to feel better, to talk. I think that's, oh my God, incredible.
And it was crazy because people looked at me like I was like the worst parent in the world. They're like, I can't believe you're giving your kid cannabis. And I was like, guys, it's CBD. I was like, it's proven to help. Like in the whole.
We have receptor sites for it, for God's sake. Like it's a part of it.
Exactly, and it's a tincture that goes under their tongue. It doesn't get them high. It literally helps them, and it relieves anxiety. And it was such a cool thing for him to be able to hear him not really be able to make full sentences, even with speech therapy and occupational therapy. But as soon as he was on CBD for about a week and he went to that next speech appointment, I mean, he was talking in full sentences. And, I mean, it'll bring a tear to your eyes as a parent. And, it really did. It changed our lives, and it changed his for the better. And it's crazy to me that people don't see the benefits of it.
Right. People don't see. I feel like for the most part, people are just really brainwashed. That's a huge part of the reason why I'm so thankful to be talking to you right now. The stuff that we talked about, the way that these different industries work, and people that are in charge of them, the owners of these companies and businesses, they can be such horrible people. Like,
they really can.
For example, please tell me again, you went and you pitched having cameras in a club, in multiple clubs, I think, and the owner said no.
Well,
Go on.
it was weird to me because, I went to multiple clubs and I was doing some market research for Forbidden Crew, and, I went out to a few of the clubs around here, the gentlemen's clubs, and, with COVID, they're dead. Here you can't even drink on the premises. If you want to have a beer, you have to go outside off property to have a beer.
That's so weird.
It is, and I get like in some places it is like that because I know in Missouri it's like that at some places. But it was just weird to me, and so there was no one there. It was me and three of my buddies, and there might have been two other people in the establishment outside of the dancers. And so I figured it was a great time to talk. So I was talking to the bar manager, and then the one of the managers of the club came over, and I was like, hey guys, I was like, I just have an idea that I'd love to pitch you. And I was like, we'd love to put some 360 cameras in here and some 180 cameras and maybe give yourselves and your entertainers a chance to make a little extra money through a virtual experience during all this COVID stuff. And they're like, no, absolutely not. It's a privacy issue. And I was like, well, okay, you don't have to say who their names or anything else like that. We just like to offer that. And they can still use their stage names. And no one has to know their identities. And I was like, hell, if you want them to have a mask, they can wear a mask, and to better protect their identity. And they were just like, no, you're not going to do that. And I was like, well, your dancers have a chance to make more money. I was like, you guys can still make some revenue. And they were like, absolutely not. It's not worth it to us. And I was like, okay, well, what about your entertainers? What about them? That was their exact answer. What about them?
Right.
It was just amazing to me that an industry that revolves around women does not care about them. It just really shocked me. And I was like, man, without these girls, you don't make any money. If you look at their business model, 30% of their revenue comes from alcohol. The rest comes from the dancers.
Which is super not a surprise to me. I mean, at a lot of clubs, I've worked at quite a few clubs that you are supposed to say yes if a customer asks you if you want a drink, even if you don't want one. So if I don't want this guy to spend $10 on me for a drink, I would just rather the money in a dance. I still am supposed to say yes to him. That's so crazy.
And I don't like the fact that it contributes to alcoholism, that that it contributes to addiction and everything else. I mean, at some point, you can look at a lot of those girls' faces, even when they're slightly faded, and they just look miserable. I would hate to be miserable going to work every day, especially with such a high earning potential. That tells you there's something else going on. And you would think a good owner would address that and would want their contractors in there to be happy, because that would be bringing in more money, not just for the girls, but for the establishment.
You would think that makes sense.
It didn't make sense to me at all the way that it worked. And, and then we went across town to a completely different establishment that had just had their liquor license pulled, and was not supposed to be serving drinks. They were charging a $50 cover. And once you got in, you could drink all you wanted for free.
I've heard of something. I have a friend that works, I have an acquaintance that works at a club in Pennsylvania, and that's exactly how they do it. And they're the only place open after 3, I think, that sells alcohol. They stay up until 5, but it's basically like they call it a membership, and when you come in, you can drink as much as you want.
This was not even a membership. It was, give me $50 at the door. Hey, we don't have an alcohol license, a liquor license, so you're not supposed to be drinking here, so don't say anything.
Oh my gosh.
No flash photography, which is standard. No flash photography, no cameras, no nothing, no Snapchat, which I get that.
Yeah.
I get that for privacy purposes. But at the same time, I pitched them the same thing. Hey, man, we'd love to put some 180 and 360 cameras in here and give these, girls an opportunity to make more money. Oh, no, we can't do that because it'll show all the violations that we have, So obviously they're doing all the wrong things.
Right. They had at a club in Clearwater, the new, I don't know if it was a new general manager, new owner, new whatever, I don't recall. I was told that we did not have to wear full backs anymore, that we could wear T-backs. So everybody started wearing them. And then I come to find out, no, he was just lying because he wanted more clients. And we all could have gone to jail for that if a cop had walked in.
Well, you see, with this particular club, they weren't even allowed to be a full strip club. They were actually sanctioned as a bikini bar. So you were not supposed to show anything. And they were letting girls up on stage doing their rotations, that were damn near nude. If the cops would have walked in, those girls would have gone to jail. If you would have seen that bartender behind the bar slinging drinks, that bartender would have gone to jail. Do you think they would have come bail them out? No.
Oh,
They don't give a shit. And that's really, it just kind of hit me to my core. And it made me realize that, you know, what Morgan wanted to do and, you know, what I got involved in was really a good thing. And it was something that was needed. And that maybe we could produce a positive change in this industry.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And that's actually something I told Morgan earlier, that I'm actually really thankful for, that you guys haven't been in the industry, because you're not jaded like the rest of us that have been in it for a long time. Like, you know, we talked about standards last night. Like, they need to be, the current ones that are in place just need to be burned to the ground, and new ones need to be rebuilt and raised a lot higher, because what's in place now is just awful. And I know there can't be a single girl out there that's listening to this that would think, yeah, no, they're fine, because they're not. I mean, can't believe all the stuff that I've dealt with. And from traveling, I've traveled to tons of different clubs around the United States, and it's pretty much the same everywhere. Everywhere's got stupid laws, and that's not necessarily the club's fault. The stupid rules are the club's fault. The laws, those are, you know, in place that no one, well, I don't know, maybe all that can be changed. The whole system in general needs to be burnt to the ground, I'm pretty sure. But
well, I think that's in any industry. If you're actually going to go through and you want to have a positive impact and you want to create change, I think you have to burn it to the ground and start over.
Yeah.
And that's one of the unique things that COVID has done for us. Now, we're taking an unfortunate situation and we're using it to kind of revamp an industry while we have the opportunity.
Right.
Now, it may not last forever, but if we can get this positive change out there and enough of these girls can see this, well, then they can start to demand it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I think that's what's important, because if we can show that the business model works, then there's no reason it can't work for any club out there.
Yeah, I had so many different, based on our conversation last night, I'm trying to figure out how to navigate which way to go, like which would be better to go in, which line. But let me go ahead and ask, because this was my very first question for you, how is this different from a porn site?
Well, the difference really is, for us, is we offer studios, okay? That's something that OnlyFans, no one else offers.
So when you told me this last night, I was confused by what a studio was.
Okay, so basically the way the studios work, and this is something that's really cool about our software, is a studio is basically a club, so to speak, okay? So if, say, you're in Miami and you have, say, 10 to 20 girls that you know and trust, and you guys already have regulars, and they're, you know, high ballers, high rollers. They're going to come in, they're going to spend money, and you know that. You can buy a studio from us. The way the studio financial breakdown works is it's a 60-40 split, because 40% of your money is going to your entertainers. That's just a given in the business model. We know that. So the 60% of the studio owner, and there could be multiple owners. You could all actually technically be owners and split that cost. So what we do as a company is we charge 30%. Reason being is that our processing fee is 9%, so we round that up 1%. So we'll just set that aside at 10, okay? The other 20 is our cut for providing you the platform, and that also pays our server fees. So in a sense, we're paying your processing fees if you own a studio, and we're paying your server fees. You're basically just paying us off that, but you're still making 30% off every single one of your girls. You as an owner. So you're technically owning your own club, but you're doing it virtually. You're doing it online. So it's the same stakes that we make off our platform. You know what I mean? Off the Forbidden Crew Studio, we make the same thing. We're giving you the opportunity to make the same amount of money that we do. We're giving you the opportunity for financial independence, financial freedom. You can own your own club online. You can do it with your friends. And the best part about it is you get your privacy back. You don't have to advertise on your social media, on your own personal social media. We advertise for you.
So you guys advertise for studios as well?
Yes, we do.
Wow.
We will offer them packages. Now, the initial package for when they buy it obviously comes with advertising. If they feel that they need more advertising, they need advanced SEO, they want to get it out there further to where you're popping up on Google searches under your own company name, I mean, that's a different package. But it's not a lot more. You're talking maybe 5% more. And that's literally just covers the cost. We're not trying to make money off these girls that want to go out and own their own business. If you want to own it, we want to give you the chance. It's covering our costs, and either way, we're making money off ads that are scrolling across your screen. So there's no need for us to be greedy. There's no need for us to be greedy. And we're not going to do that. That's something that Morgan and I agree on 110%. For our site, for Forbidden Cruise Studio, now we're not going to allow pornography. Okay? Mm-hmm. We want everything to be a little bit more classy, a little bit more tasteful, and we want to show all of these girls that if they kind of follow the formula that we've set in place, that they can have a higher earning potential and that they can actually bring in a different clientele, so to speak. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, if the girls so choose to buy a studio and rent that space, I mean, they can do what they want in it. This is America. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do, but you cannot do it under our name. Okay? So at the end of the day, we are offering these girls the same opportunity as us. And if if you're having a slow week and you want to jump back into the Forbidden Cruise Studio, we're happy to have you. We're happy to have you back. At the same time, if you do come back to the Forbidden Cruise Studio, you do have to follow our TOS, our terms of service. That is no pornography. That's no masturbation. That's nothing else like that you're allowed to do on other sites from our competitors such as OnlyFans. That's something we want to stay away from. But once again, if you own a studio, we're not going to tell you how to run it.
So something that crossed my mind is there's a lot of money in fetishes. So girls that are really into that market, I would think that would be, especially if they knew a lot of other girls that did fetish work, that would be a great option for them to get a studio and to have their own, whatever type of niche it is.
I read an article the other day. It was very interesting to me. So there is a girl, I cannot remember her name, and she is on OnlyFans, and she identifies as a cat, and she pretends to be a cat. But this girl's making money. I mean, this girl's making over $100,000 a year doing this. But you're right. It's a fetish. It's something that I don't quite understand.
Anthony, I got to go. I'm going to go turn into a cat.
You know what I mean? It just blew my mind. But, the one thing that COVID is bringing out is it's showing people's kinks. It really is.
Yeah.
And, and there's nothing, dude, this has been around forever. So I'm not going to say that I disagree with it. Now, and I will get this out in the air, I have been very vocal about disagreeing with OnlyFans and the way that they do business. And the only reason I say that, and once again, like I've said before, I'm just going to reiterate, I have no issue with how anyone makes their money, none whatsoever. But when you have to give up your privacy, you have to put your business out there on your own personal social media and everything else, it's an issue to me. Because it's not right. These companies can do that for you. You can have your privacy. I have seen women turn down for jobs simply because they had an advertisement for their OnlyFans. And I'll tell you this, if you don't have OnlyFans, you cannot see what they do on that page. But guess what? They've been turned down for jobs that they're more than qualified for simply because they're on a website and people feel some type of way about that. I don't agree with that. That is wrong. You should not do that to a person. That's why I don't agree with that platform. I also don't agree with the fact that they tax their tips. In what world do your tips get taxed? I mean, think about it as if you are a server or you're a bartender. Guess what? At the end of the night, you get all your credit card tips cash. You know why? Because the company 1099s themselves for those tips. Because it's a write-off for that company. Yes, it's a write-off for that company. That's why you get those credit card tips at the end of the night and they're not on a formal paycheck. The company's writing that off. So for companies that are as large as OnlyFans that have an evaluation of $900 million, why are you taxing these girls on a $40 tip? What is wrong with you? In what world is that right? So
the fact that it's a write-off is fascinating. I had no idea.
It is. You just 1099 yourself. The reason it's a write-off, because if you look and see how much you owe in tax, so it does show up as a tax debt. You know, I'm 1099 on that. I owe that. Well, guess what? At the end of the year, you know, before October 1st, I can just go buy a vehicle. I can go buy something and write off that amount of money. So it's not a big deal to a company. I could purchase a piece of property. I could do so many things with it. I could buy an office space. So why is a company that's making $900 million taxing girls on $40 tips? What sense does that make? You're already taxing them on what they make in your main platform. Why are you taxing them on what they do in private? I don't understand the greed of that.
Maybe they're taking the money, according to that post that I sent you guys last night. Maybe that's what that's about. Maybe they're...
Well, you know, that's another thing. And, you know, I will never speak ill of a competitor that is trying to make it the legal way. But if you're evading taxes, you know, I will say this for them. But when you scale as quickly as they did, sometimes it is hard to keep up with the finances if you don't have great CPAs and you don't have great lawyers, especially when you have girls working all over the world like they do. They're based out of the UK. A lot of people don't know that. So it is hard for them because they have to pay taxes in the US, they have to pay taxes in the UK, they have to pay taxes in Canada. I mean, so you do have to have, it is confusing. So you have to have professionals doing that. And if you go through their corporate structure, you never once see a CFO. You never once see a CPA. Nowhere in the corporate structure is there one.
I have to say, when we were talking yesterday, you said, when we were talking about, okay, let's say we made $5 million. So what would you do with the tax write-off? And you were like, well, we could go in and we could start doing things that could really support these girls, being like, get a piece of property and actually help house them, because that's one of the main reasons why I believe girls in general become sex workers, is because of a living situation.
Every company, every single for-profit company is allowed to donate X amount of dollars to a nonprofit every single year.
Really?
Every single one. Yes, and they all do it. They all do it because they want that max tax write-off, want that deduction. If you're making that amount of money, then why would you not put that to a nonprofit? And if you are in this industry and you want to create a positive change in this industry, why would you not buy a piece of property?
Right.
Why would you not buy multiple parcels of property in big cities where this is an issue? Why would you not have social workers working with you? Why would you not have psychologists working with you? Why would you not have girls that got off the street working with you that can relate to these girls, that can help them? Why would you not have addiction specialists? Why would you not give these girls a safe place to sleep and a chance at a better life? I just don't understand why people wouldn't do it. Now,